So you might have heard about this thing called business insurance, but you're not really sure whether or not you need it or whether you need it now. And if so, what kind of business insurance do you need? I get how confusing it is, and that's why I'm bringing you this video today. I'm Vander, an attorney turned entrepreneur who helps online coaches and service providers legally protect and grow their online businesses using my DIY legal templates and my Ultimate Bundle program. And each week here on YouTube, I share my best legal tips and business growth strategies with you to help you feel more confident to market and grow your online business. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit subscribe and ring the bell so you get a notification every single time I post a new video each week. So by the end of this video, you'll know the two main types of business insurance for what you do, what they cover, and what they typically don't cover. And hopefully you'll have enough of what you need to be headed in the right direction, getting business insurance for your business. All right, so let's get into it. Keep in mind that when I'm talking about this kind of business insurance today, I'm really talking to the kinds of customers that I work with, who are online coaches, service providers like registered dietitians and copywriters, social media managers, Facebook ads managers, all of that kind of stuff. Those are really the people that I'm speaking to today, and those are the kinds of people that I help learn what kinds of business insurance they need for their business. So if you have a different kind of business, this video might not be for you. Just like any insurance, if you went out to go get car insurance and I went out to get car insurance, we would get really different car insurance policies depending on the limits and what they might cover and what they don't cover. Or maybe a better example is even a health insurance company. Your company might cover one kind of procedure and mine might not, right? Even though health insurance in general is the same kind of health insurance, they all cover different things. So I am talking to you today about the two major types of business insurance that my customers typically need. But because they all get different policies, I want to empower you with all of the different things that you should ask about when you go to get business insurance, so that you know that that kind of business insurance actually covers you for what you think it does and for what you need. Okay, so I don't know why, but when I was a practicing attorney at the firm, for some reason, I always got stuck with these major insurance cases. And for some reason, it just made sense to me. I wouldn't say that I necessarily like insurance at all. I don't know who likes insurance. I like having insurance. I feel like I understand it. And if anything, this has just been very helpful to the thousands of customers inside of my Ultimate Bundle in just clearing all of the myths and clearing the air about what kind of business insurance you actually need. So there are 10 different types of business insurance, but when it comes to being an online coach or service provider, there really are two main types of business insurance that you need. You'll hear people talk about business insurance a lot, and they'll use specific terms like professional liability insurance or errors and omissions, or they'll be like, I have business insurance, I had errors and omissions, right? So I don't need any others. And I'm like, whoa, let's break it down. So business insurance is just a general term, right? And then, like I said, there are 10 different kinds of business insurance, different types of policies. The two that I'm talking about today, if we were to have business insurance as the overhead, we would then have professional liability insurance, which is also sometimes called errors and omissions insurance, or E&O. And the other that I'm going to talk about today is commercial general liability insurance. So that's just another type of business insurance, right? First things first, let's talk about professional liability insurance, what it is and whether you need it. If you're an online coach or service provider, you almost definitely need professional liability insurance. Of course, you want to make sure that that's right for you, but here's what professional liability insurance does for you and your business. So professional liability insurance protects your business from financial harm if one of your customers or clients alleges that you did something that caused them harm, right? You gave them some bad advice, you suggested something and it didn't go well for them and it caused them some sort of harm. If they turned around and sued you, that would be the kind of lawsuit that would fall under professional liability insurance. Now, something really important for you to understand is what business insurance does anyway. So I know I just mentioned it covers your business financially, right? But what does that really mean? So any kind of business insurance, when I'm talking about it financially covering you, whether it's professional liability or commercial general liability, the other type that we're going to talk about in a second, what that does and what I mean by financially protects your business is that your business insurance policy steps in, the carrier that you have, like, let's say like if it was like your car insurance, Geico or something, whatever carrier you have, they step in and they take on that lawsuit for you financially, meaning that they provide you with an attorney, otherwise known as a defense attorney, and then they pay that attorney's fees, right? The hourly bills that they're going to send to your insurance carrier now and not to you. And then if there was a judgment or settlement found against your business, they would cover that too, minus whatever your deductible is under your policy. Now, keep in mind that the caveat, the big asterisk here under all of that is that whatever you're sued for is actually covered by your policy, right? So just like any other type of insurance, first things first, we need to make sure that it's actually covered by your policy. But as long as that is true, we send that lawsuit or that nasty lawyer letter off to our insurance carrier. They take care of it. They assume responsibility financially for it. And that gets the financial harm off of your back. I mean, I would say as a new business owner, but really any kind of business owner, you can imagine this is a huge benefit and a huge weight off your shoulders that I've talked about in other videos, how we can't necessarily prevent you from getting sued, right? But if you are sued, we want to make sure that you're not financially responsible for it, because for many businesses, this would be financially crippling, right? So for business insurance to step in and provide you with an attorney, pay for that attorney, and then pay for any sort of judgment or settlement that's found against your business, minus your deductible, that's a really big help. Now, if you already have professional liability insurance, but you're not sure if you have the right kind or if you have enough, I wanted to give you a few quick tips. So whenever we're talking about insurance, the gold thing that you want to look for is what's called the deck page in the biz. All us cool kids who used to work on insurance. No, not really. Okay, so you want to look at what we call your deck page, which is your declarations page. So that is kind of usually like the cover page, the first page to your insurance policy. And it's the gold because it's where it tells you all of the main information that you need to know about your insurance policy. So this is where you're going to go to find things like policy limits and deductibles and the types of coverage, like there's coverage A and coverage B and coverage C. So it's going to tell you all this really important information, and it's going to tell you who to contact, who's your carrier, who's your agent. All of that stuff's really important. I actually talked about it in the video where I told you what to do if you get sued. If you haven't watched that already, you definitely want to. So I want you to get out this deck page and I want you to look at if you already have a policy, or if you're going to go sign up for one after this video, I want you to look at what your policy limits are, what your deductibles are. That is all very important information to have. I also want you to find out, and hopefully it's also on that deck page, if you have what's called a claims made policy. So any kind of business insurance policy is either a claims made policy or an occurrence policy. Most of the time, especially for what we do, we have what's called claims made policy types, right? So when we have a claims made professional liability policy, what that means is that your insurance carrier will cover you for any harm, anything that somebody has alleged that you've done wrong, if the claim is made during the policy period, right? So let's say you worked with a client 6 months ago before you ever got business insurance, and the client sues you now during the period in which you have business insurance, right? You have business insurance from January 1 to January 1 of next year, right? And they sue you right in the middle of that. That means that your business insurance would step in and they would cover it for you. Even though the work that you did with that client was before you had business insurance, as long as you have business insurance now and the claim is made during the policy period, they will cover you. Now, that might sound like a huge relief, right? Yes, but you have to remember that you have to keep your business insurance running like the whole time. So the whole time you have your business, you cannot let there be any lapses in coverage. There has to be continuous coverage for you. Not even a day, not 3 days, not 3 hours. You need to make sure that you always have your business insurance active, which means you need to pay your premiums, keep up with it, change your contact information, all that kind of stuff. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is that if you ever stop working in your business, or maybe you completely change your niche or something, or the type of business that you have, I always recommend that you continue coverage for a while, maybe even a few years after you stop working with clients, so that if one of your past clients files a claim, and as long as that claim is made during that period, you'll still be covered, right? So you want to keep that coverage active. Many insurance carriers have policies that they allow people to, like if you contact them and say, hey, I'm shutting down my business, they will allow you an extension period that you can sign up for that's typically much cheaper than your regular premiums, but you want to make sure with them that the coverage is the same. Now, the last thing I have to tell you about professional liability coverage, because it unfortunately often comes as a surprise to many people, is that most professional liability policies don't cover data breach. That means if somebody purchases something on your website or one of your customers gets their credit card information stolen and they try to sue you for it or something like that, those kinds of breaches or website breaches, hacking of your content, something like that, it's not covered typically by professional liability insurance. So if that's something that you're concerned about or you run a really high volume of sales, that might be the kind of coverage that you want to seek out elsewhere. Another thing that I've seen that's really common and a bit unfortunate given what we do is that many of these policies actually exclude coverage for anything that we put on social media. On the one hand, I understand it because social media is a wild place and we can pretty much do and say anything. And a lot of this content's in real time and I can get it from their perspective that they feel like they can't be expected to cover us for something that is just so easy to put out there and so much content, right? It'd be so much for them to have to cover. But I think that people are often surprised to find out that the main marketing way that they, promote their businesses is not covered by their insurance policy. So that means that if you put something in one of your Instagram posts and someone takes that advice and it turns out poorly for them and they sue you for it, then that might not be covered by your professional liability policy. Now, don't freak out. I want you to just remember that first, most of these things can be solved by staying within our scope of practice and not giving people bad information in terms of, information that they really could take and implement and make for their own. And the other thing is just putting the proper disclaimers on things and really doing your best. Just like the data breach policy situation, the social media content is another thing that you could look for in a different policy. Maybe one carrier covers it where another does not, or maybe there's an additional policy that you can add on to your coverage. Now, the very last thing that we need to talk about with professional liability insurance, or really any insurance in general, you can apply this tip elsewhere, is that when you're reviewing an insurance policy to consider whether or not you want to get it or whether or not it has enough coverage for you, you need to look at what's called the endorsements and the exclusions section. So typically most insurance policies are broken down, at least in terms of business policies, are broken down in terms of sections of coverage. So there's typically coverage A, B, and C. And then there are sections at the bottom or at the end of your policy that will be called endorsements and exclusions. Endorsements are things that the policy is adding on, right? So things that are covered and they are saying, yes, we are covering these kinds of things. Exclusions are the exact opposite, where your insurance carrier will very specifically tell you what things are not covered. Most of them are really benign, or you're just oh, okay, I wouldn't have thought that would have been covered anyway. But some of them can be kind of surprising. So sometimes I will see exclusions for things like blogging or things like social media or data breach and privacy. And those are a little surprising given the kind of content that we always put out there. Okay, let's talk about the second most common type of business insurance for online coaches and service providers. So not everybody needs this kind of business insurance. Many people only need the professional liability insurance, but commercial general liability insurance protects your business from financial harm for things like property damage, bodily injury, and advertising injury. I know that sounds crazy, but we'll talk about it. So basically, commercial general liability is protecting you for non-professional negligent acts that come out of your business operations, unlike the more professional acts of negligence that come from your professional liability insurance, right? Those are the things that might come as a result of your advice or your expertise. Whereas with commercial general liability insurance, we're talking more about non-professional negligent acts that might just happen on your premises or in somewhere else in your business operations. So I want to give you a couple of examples. So one example that I can think of is if somebody gets hurt in your workout class, whether you teach in a studio somewhere, maybe you meet in the park, you would want to make sure that wherever you do hold your types of classes, like if you already know that you hold classes every week in the park, or you meet somewhere in like a community gym, I would definitely talk to an insurance carrier about that and whether those types of classes would be covered. If you're ever hosting classes in somebody else's space, you can always ask them and make sure that they have insurance as well. And it might even be something you want to require. And you might want to talk to your business insurance agent about whether you should ask to be added as what's called an additional insured on somebody else's policy if you consistently teach in somebody else's space. Another example where commercial general liability insurance might be right for you is if you like hold a class and one of your students goes and uses the bathroom and she accidentally leaves the sink on and the faucet runs and it causes water damage to the tenant downstairs who has a hair salon. I don't know. So that would be another example that commercial general liability insurance would step in for. Another example is if somebody sued you for something that you said under false advertising, if somebody sued you for infringing on their copyright, or if you got sued for libel or slander. So you want to make sure that these things are something that you really need. I would talk to a commercial general liability insurance agent or a business insurance agent who sells commercial general liability insurance and professional liability insurance. Tell them everything about who you are, what you do, how you work with people, and especially how you work with people in the sense of like, is it virtual? Is it in person? Are you hands-on? That kind of stuff. I would definitely give them as much detail as possible so that you can make sure that you get the right kind of business insurance for you. So one of the things I teach my Ultimate Bundle members, that's my signature program that gives you 10 DIY legal templates and over 35 on-demand video trainings teaching you how to legally protect your online business, is how to get the best kind of insurance for them by asking all of the right questions, filling out the forms properly, and making sure that they understand the policies that are sent to them so they can review them and make sure that they're actually policies that are covering what they do. If you want me to give you those tips in another video, in a future video, leave me a comment below and let me know. I'd be happy to talk about this some more. But having business insurance is just one piece of the legal puzzle that you need to make sure that your business is completely legally protected. Because although it financially protects your business, we also want to make sure that you have a legitimate business in order to protect and that you have the proper legal documents like contracts and policies to make sure that you can actually back yourself up and win these cases if anything was ever even filed against you. So that is exactly what I teach you in my free legal workshop, 5 Steps to Legally Protect and Grow Your Online Business. In it, I teach you my 5-step strategy to legally protect your online business using contracts, website policies, registering your business the right way, and more than anything, making the #1 mindset shift that you've got to make if you really want to grow your business and this legal stuff is getting in the way. You can click the link in the description below to watch my free legal workshop, 5 Steps to Legally Protect and Grow Your Online Business right now. Until then, leave me a comment below. Let me know if this video was helpful, and I'll see you next week.